Welcome to the Love Pod, where inspiration, vision, and real connection come alive. Wherever you are, you belong here.
Welcome to the Love Pod, everyone. I am your host today, Nathaniel. I'm so pleased to welcome our special guest today, Jo Kelly, who leads experiential journeys and is a filmmaker that really evokes a lot of awakening I see in such a broad spectrum of people, everything from teachers and athletes and therapists, leaders, creative minds. So helping that unblock that creative flow sounds like a lot about your world, Jo. And I love the title of your book, Why Isn't Everyone Dancing?
It's
Or
a
sorry, your
documentary.
documentary. I
Yeah,
apologize. I
no
think
problem.
that sounds like such an interesting question, and I think a perfect place to dive in. But before we do, I'd just love to welcome you to introduce who you are, and why do you do what you do?
So I'm Jo or JoJo, and I think my main obsession is about really being present
Mm,
to the miraculous life that we are given to live. And I have that obsession for myself, and for everyone else. So I've had it for my children too. I've made sure to raise them through a humanistic education
mm,
so they have escaped the conditioned system. I mean, at least part of it, the school conditioning. And I help in my work. The shortest way to say it is I help professional adults in whichever endeavor be children again,
mm.
so that they can access that sense of freedom and play and flow. And that zone is no longer just an exception that you can hope to reach at one point in your career. Again, whether you're a professional artist or whichever leader you are, but that you can actually live from there just like you did when you were a child. And there's nothing that anyone can teach you about that because that's your purest essence. That's how you're born. And so all the work that there is to do is undoing the conditioning so that you can recover. In my world, we call it reset your original life force. Yeah.
You, I feel like I'm meeting a soul sister in real time. I loved how you talked about this
Mm-hmm.
conversation as a surfing, because I feel like riding that wave of presence and just being enamored with the beauty that is life,
Yeah.
that we are
Yeah.
life. And I
Mm-hmm.
love that that frame, right? It's not like so many of us have been conditioned to chase things outside of ourselves to make us better, to achieve more, so that we, I think are often just searching for that reconnection with who we really are, that journey back home. And you and I have this a kindred purpose in helping people to awaken back, or realize that importance of that
Yeah.
childlike nature.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny too, because I feel like almost every master has in some way shown us this, although their teachings have been often misconstrued and made very serious,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah.
Christ said, only through the eyes of a child can we return to a state of heaven. And I feel like all
Yeah.
of us knew that state when we were very, very young, and we were just
Absolutely.
enamored with the miracle of all of this.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Preconditioning, um, we were just pure life force and very unique. Like we each have our specific DNA. And no one has the same. No one ever has had the same. No one will ever have the
Mm,
same. I mean, God knows, maybe with technology they will mess with that. But you are amongst the billion of possibilities of, other versions of you that could have come. You're the one who are here. Um, and you are different. So whatever nature, the universe, source, God, whatever you want to call it, did it, you're meant to be here, and therefore you are meant to be here. You're not meant to behave, you're not meant to conform, you're not meant to obey, submit, etc., which is what our education system unfortunately still does to this day. And conditioning in general. um, because when you do fully be and express your nectar, again, your DNA, then inevitably, the symphony of all of us doing that, is miraculous, is synchronized, is, it's just beautiful. We all have something that's meaningful to gift and
Mm,
to, yeah, contribute. And if we're all, just a bunch of coping mechanisms and trauma responses and adaptive skills and masks and armors, we're not able to contribute. We're just able to make the system continue, but we're
mm,
not in our essence. And so it's really hard from that place, um, to live. But then if you're talking about creating, about making art, about making an impact, about really creating from a place of truth, well, how are you going to get access to that creativity if it's full of layers of mask and adaptive skills? It's really pretty much impossible. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So well said. And I really appreciate the way you're articulating all of this. It's really the foundational mission of Lighter Vision is we call it home,
Mhm.
heaven on Mother Earth. I believe, it's a synthesis of everything I've learned from being in the indigenous wellness circles, listening to lots of
Mhm.
elders, and also my direct spiritual experience of feeling that just that pure essence, like you say, the
Mhm.
nectar of not only me, but the mastermind behind all of this, like
Yeah.
our creative source. And I feel like one of the unique things about humans, we all have a unique relationship with it, and we try to
Mhm.
compartmentalize and express to one another. But the truth can't really be ever summarized in words. It has to be
No.
experienced. So
Mhm.
you have a beautiful vision that you painted of all of us being in our creative elements and dancing together in ways that we are contributing and increasing the life of everyone. And where, I mean, to me, that is the abundant life. That is truly heaven. And this idea that it's not a place that we go to, that we already have within us. We just uncover the layers.
Yeah.
We also made a strong decision, as a part of why Lighter Vision is at its core a education association is because we will not indoctrinate our daughter into the education
Mhm.
system. Both Julie and I started getting my silvers when I was 13 years old because of the education system. I was a
Mhm.
highly sensitive, energetic little kid. I didn't like obeying. I didn't like doing homework that didn't make sense to me. And then I was put in a position of like basically like I had to mature really fast and grow up. And essentially, I started using my super skill of hyper focus to memorize textbooks to become the best at taking tests and everything so that I could never be in a position of failure. And that was
Yeah.
traumatizing on a lot of levels. And
Of
for
course.
me, then leading into like public education and dealing with all kinds of hierarchical stuff and seeing all the egos rubbing up against each other. I'm just like, there's got to be a different way for us
Mhm.
to be together because I feel like at the heart of it, we're all yearning for what you're talking about, Jo. So can you
Yeah.
talk a little bit about that journey that people go through with you, what you've seen, like the transformations when someone does start peeling back the layers and really living from that as essential place?
Yeah, and if you allow me, I think I'll start with what happens when children don't get conditioned,
Mm,
just because I have an 18-year-old and a 10-year-old, and they did go through humanistic education.
mm,
So, humanistic education means that the teachers, to sum it up really fast, the teachers are not allowed to teach
mm.
unless the child specifically demands to be taught.
Uh,
So that pretty much reverses traditional education. So there's no
I love that.
classrooms, there's no desks, there's no, of course, no homework, no grades, no tests. There's no dominance.
Mm,
So the paradigm is you're a divine being as a child, and if we trust you and you and you will all come into your blossoming. Is that how you say it in English?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Into your own blossoming at the time that works for you,
yeah,
in the color and shape and taste that works for you. So
yeah.
it means every child in humanistic education teaches themselves how to read and write. But then
Mm,
it also means that some of them read and write at 3. Some of them start at 12.
mm,
No one gets worried because we all trust that if for you it's at 12, it means developmentally for you, for your DNA, there's other things that are more important for you.
mhm,
And so, what's incredible in that type of education is that the science shows that kids learn 7 times faster
mm.
than if you shove it down their throat.
Yeah,
And obviously it makes sense, right? Because if the child chooses his activities,
Yeah.
all his little brain instrument and nervous system is literally a sponge that's absorbing everything because they want to. And when I tell a child to sit down, to be quiet, to behave, feel, learn, and think what I'm telling them, guess what happens inside? Everything shuts down.
Hmm.
And so it becomes laborious
Yeah.
to learn,
Yeah.
and also to learn what things that are absolutely not necessary. So what I can say from having had two children who've been through that education is that those children are extremely smart, extremely respectful, not because I taught them respect,
Yeah.
because all they've ever been met with is
Hmm.
respect.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
it's not, respect is not something you enforce,
Yeah.
it's something that is modeled for you and around you and with you. And so all you know is, I have worth, you have worth. I can stand up when something doesn't work. I can speak my truth because that's all they've ever seen.
Yeah.
So I think that knowing that that is possible and it does not create crazy children and disrespectful children and aggressive children is incredible to know. Leave them alone, trust them, and they will blossom in their genius, literally.
Yeah.
Now, don't do that and put a 2.5-year-old in a school system where you're being told to not feel and feel certain things, to not think and think certain other things, to behave, to move, to eat, to pee, to like everything that comes from your body is meant to be repressed,
Hmm.
and everything that's around is oppressed into you.
Yeah.
So inevitably, we all try to cope with that conditioning in the best way we can in order to not only stay safe, survive, belong, attach, be seen, be validated, and function in the system. But that builds so many layers of of things that are so foreign to our truth that we then become um, people who are extremely disconnected from who we are, from our genius, from our potential, from our contribution, and instead we're just coping.
Yeah.
We're just coping, but pretty much like
Yeah.
everything is like tied up. So in the work of resetting, what we do is we help these adults who again are mostly professional creatives and artists to really remember what it's like to live in a human body and to feel your sensations, your own sensations. And so very often in the beginning, it starts with the stinky ones, the ones that are uncomfortable, that we have been told to never ever feel. So
Mhm.
we've been told to not be angry, to not be scared, to not cry, to not be too loud when we're happy. So we've been actually told to never feel, unless we're
Mhm.
watching a movie.
Mhm.
Then it's okay to feel. But for us, no. Or if we do, then go to your room and hide it, right?
Yeah.
So the first thing we do in reset work is actually starting to pay attention again to what's there, and remembering how to feel,
Mhm.
because in the paradigm at least that I'm in, or in my worldview, your feelings are not a mistake from nature. They're meant to be there. They're your guidance system. They're your GPS. They enable you to know what's not for you, when to turn, when to go stronger, when to go backwards. They are what makes you walk your path.
Mhm.
And so until you're able to feel your feelings, embrace them, accept them, celebrate them, not fix them, not heal them, because there's nothing to heal. It's just a resetting of your human technology, which is, when I feel, there is wisdom and information that moves through me and that tells me what to do, what I want. And if I don't feel these feelings, or if I've forgotten how to, then the ways that I'm behaving and contributing to the world and creating are very, very muffled. Is that a word?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Muffled.
yeah.
Absolutely.
They're atrophied. They're
Yeah.
atrophied. Basically,
Yeah.
they're not available. Yeah.
And this seems like the one of the core challenges in all of our relationships in life, right? So, I mean, to
Absolutely.
me, relationships is kind of the ubiquitous thing. We not only do, I mean, with humans, I mean, with ourselves, I mean, with our creator, I mean, with nature and all of our relatives in nature. And that closing off from feeling, I feel, is like one of the most detrimental things that humankind has been really conditioned. And I think there's intentionality off obviously, just like many, whether they're technologies or certain solutions are suppressed. I think of like, certain plants that have been suppressed. Like I was really interested.
Mm-hmm.
Canada legalized cannabis a few years ago, and I I wasn't sure exactly, like it was always kind of part of like the covered up culture here. Like it was just like it was illegal, but it wasn't really. And now it's become this commercial industry. But what
Mm-hmm.
fascinated me the most, what so now it's like basically a petroleum industry because you see wrappers and stuff everywhere. It's pretty gross. And I see a lot of people going to more escapism, right? They're using a plant that probably could
Yeah.
be help them with awakening that nature and help
Mm-hmm.
them medicinally in different ways. But now it's being used as a commercial tool and it's
Mm-hmm.
irradiated and all kinds of things. But what I found most interesting is like, not to go too far off topic here, but like hemp. Hemp was a plant that could solve so many of our challenges.
Yeah.
And just like that innate nature, you know, it really has these infinite uses. It seems to be like something that's we're meant to have as a species, but it's been repressed. And I feel like
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned the education system. I remember when I was studying to be a full-time professor at college, I left that world. I was building Indigenous wellness courses, and you start uncovering a lot of the history, what's told to us, our history, and same with like, I brought up hemp, but education, we know kind of the same time there was this wanting to we're in the industrial age, just like hemp was suppressed with forestry, right? They're like, well, no, we don't want this miraculous plant that can
Mm-hmm.
make all the papers and the fibers and the ropes and everything. We want to cut down trees because we own the land. And in the same way, I feel like humans were treated like this commodity that was owned as workers, and
Absolutely.
we were
Mm-hmm.
put into a position of denial. And I think we saw it really poignantly in the last few years, right? When we're not like everyone went like collectively we went through such a huge trauma and so many people were afraid and were very manipulated through that fear, but then told not to be afraid. It's like we're in this together, and then now there's this huge denial period. It's like it's almost like it never happened, and we're not talking about like, hey, we went through
Mm-hmm.
something significant. And there was like a divide in humanity,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like the education system is like that too. It's like we literally give up our children to
Mm-hmm.
these weird unnatural circumstances where they're surrounded by children only in their own the same age as
Mm-hmm.
them, and they're socialized by one another, and they're getting
Mm-hmm.
all of these kind of weird kind of conditioned things. They're exposed to all kinds of different memes and like Mayan thoughts and stuff, and like you said, so there's the imposed system, but there's also all that just they're learning from peers that are they're confused, and then
Yeah.
they come home and there's the disconnect between the parents and the family. So it's like all of these very unnatural circumstances that humankind has been placed in, seemingly for control, whether it's to feed some egoic agenda or something. What do you feel is I I see that your work is really geared around like creative professionals. It reminds me of like the heart of Julia Cameron's work, The Artist's Way. I feel like artists have a role to expand consciousness. So what
Mm-hmm.
do you see as the ripple effects of this work, and how do you see it playing out through your work?
Yeah, so I actually also think that, just to go back a little bit to what you said, that we've normalized so much of the system that we have ourselves built, right? Because
Mhm,
I actually think that the system of control that we all built, it's not that it's bad or evil. We built it at a time where we wanted to protect ourselves
mhm,
against
mhm,
uncertainty. We were just afraid. So
mhm,
it was a way for us, a loving way for us to come up with something that would protect us from pain, from death, from from fear because we're so in love with being alive, right?
Yeah.
So, but of course, that system is outdated,
Hmm.
and we're seeing it globally pretty graphically right now, right? Because it's all collapsing, hopefully. Um, but but I think that it's normalized so much of what we be, so
Hmm.
much of what we do, and so much of what we have that even the artistic position of the artist
Hmm. Hmm.
and we, the watcher, the less than, art was never meant to be entertaining sitting in a chair while someone's having a blast.
Hmm.
It
Hmm.
was always participatory.
Hmm.
And so it's funny because we started probably a half an hour ago and you said, can you start with your documentary? Why isn't everyone dancing? And that's when I'm answering your question a
That's
half hour
perfect.
later.
I love it.
Um, um, it, art was, yeah, never meant to be performed by one and
Hmm.
to entertain others. It was
Yeah.
always a communal
Yeah.
experience of joy, of grief, of everything
Mhm.
that is the human experience. And at a certain point in our history, the systems of control, the government, the church, we can call it the patriarchy, but the
Yep.
systems that we were having, come into power started to think that, oh, for example, yeah, people having communal expressions of joy, dancing into ecstasy in the street, which was the norm, um, no good. People are
Hmm.
uncontrollable. There
Hmm.
are no levels in between people when they do that. There's not like the caste or anything. So that was progressively pushed out of our culture. And depression arose when that moved. So melancholy and hysteria, it was called for women. Before that, when
Hmm.
communal expressions of our humanity into art, into humanity, into whatever it was still part of our ritual, life made sense. We
Yeah.
would work, we would relate, we would celebrate, we would grieve, we would be together, we would be human.
Be human.
And
Yeah.
then when that was pushed away, suddenly, yeah, the full beingness and the full expression and the connection and the potential of us uniting into
Hmm.
joy and into truth and what it gives us access to, which is something much bigger, that was threatening to the systems that wanted to dominate, right? So inevitably, that was a long time ago. And so, I mean, we're born into this system. And so everything becomes normal. Oh, there's one artist and the thousands of us are watching her and
Hmm.
we're barely moving. Yeah, that's normal. It's not normal.
Yeah.
So, going back to your question again, I worked with breast cancer 2 years ago.
Okay.
And that's how the project started because my kids and I always woke up and put music and started dancing.
Hmm.
Not as in a celebration, but we just crank up the music and everyone's going about preparing their day. Sometimes we meet in the middle and we dance, and it's normal. And so when I was going through breast cancer, I did surgery, chemo, and radiation because it was a very aggressive kind. And the reason I went through Western approaches is because I also have a daughter with special needs who has a lot of hospital
Hmm.
treatments.
Hmm.
And I was single, so I was like, I can't do it a whole,
Hmm.
alternative
Hmm.
journey. I want the help of Western medicine. I'm making peace with that, but I'm very scared. I'm very scared of those treatments. So what am I doing? I felt the feelings of the terror, of the grief, of the fear of dying because of those treatments. But once I had felt it, my body was really asking me to move.
Hmm.
So I started to go to ecstatic dance on the beach in Los Angeles because we lived in Los Angeles at the time. And I would pray before the treatments of chemo. I would pray dancing with the others around me in the nature, with my feet in the water, connecting with the molecule of chemo and being like, be gentle with me, be gentle with me. So that was, it was starting to weave itself into my health journey. And one day, as I'm getting ready for radiation, it's the morning, we're all dancing. I I'm about to step in the shower, and I see myself in the mirror dancing and about to go to radiation. And in that moment, I realized that us dancing every morning is not normal. And especially not if I'm a cancer patient. I should be like depressed. And so I start to pay attention to the joy that's present in my body when I move it with the music. And then I pay more attention in my car when I'm driving to the center. The music goes louder. And the more I'm aware and conscious that actually I am in presence of my human technology, and that the fact that I'm moving it with the music, something is happening and there's more and more joy. And so the joy keeps circling up and spiraling up. And when I arrive at the hospital, I can't stop because there's just too much joy in me. So I put my AirPods on and I become Fred Astaire in the hospital hallways. And when I arrive in radiation, which is always basement, no windows, 200 patients a day go into that, one machine, same nurses every day. I'm with my buzzer in front of the door. I'm dancing, I'm dancing, I'm dancing. I'm like, I can't stop. They open the door, they put me in the machine, they settle me, and this one nurse comes to me like every day and she says, "So, Jo, how are you today?" Just as a habit, because they see you every day. And in that moment, I take a pause and I'm like, I think I'm doing amazing because I was just dancing outside in the corridor. And in that second, all the nurses that were there, about 5 nurses, come to me in the machine and they look at me with so much glee on their face and they say, "We know, we saw you, we have cameras, we saw you dance in the corridor." And so I was seeing these nurses every day. They were not in glee. Again, they're in the basement, no windows, and cancer patient after cancer patient. And so when that joy that had kept increasing inside of me because I was realizing it the whole day and I was dancing everywhere and it started to pass through to the other beings in front of me, it came back and it started to spiral so much I felt ecstasy in my body. And I know what ecstasy does because I'm a psychonaut. So I have experimented with psychedelics for about 15 years, so I know what it is. And I was in a radiation machine having ecstasy move through my body because
Wow.
I had been moving and it had spread and come back. And so in that moment, I heard, if this is what you feel like after dancing one day in public, you're going to dance 30 days and film it. And so I did it.
Wow.
I danced
Wow.
for 30 days in a row doing the treatments everywhere I went, in the street, the restaurant, the grocery stores, the Trader Joe's, the coffee place, the school, the doctors, everywhere I went. And after 30 days, I of course I wasn't in any place where I was wanting to be creative or
Yeah.
write a documentary in any way. I was going through treatments. My daughter was going through treatments. I was preparing myself to move to Portugal alone. There's no room. I have a business. There's no room to make a documentary. But I heard the instruction and I honored it without trying to know what was going to happen after. I just wanted to observe what was going to happen in my body as a result of all of that frequency rising and what was going to happen in my life. And after 30 days, I looked back and I was like, okay, so what do I do with this now? And I realized that I had the most extraordinary cancer journey. There
Mm,
was something suspicious in my other breast that had disappeared in those 30 days.
mm,
I mean, not disappeared. That's not true, actually. That's wishful thinking. It had not moved. It had not increased. Still,
mm,
it hasn't. So it remained stable, which is great. And I was like, well, if it feels so incredible to me and to some of the strangers that joined me in the streets or in the grocery stores for a couple seconds with no AirPods, just like this. And in those moments, it was just absolute, joint ecstasy. I felt
mm,
every single time, now I can die. I've lived my
mm,
purpose.
mm,
This was pure joy. No teacher, no room, no drugs, no nothing, just dancing for dancing. But there was all these other people that looked at me and that judged me and that shamed me and that stopped me and that avoided me and that, just changed sidewalks. And so that's when the question downloaded itself to me too. And again, it was like, why isn't everyone dancing? Because it
Mm.
does feel pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And of course, it goes back to the work that I do, which is helping people to, decondition the system from our nervous system. And so I knew the answer to that, but I went on a quest and started interviewing people and asking people to come and dance with me in the streets. And, so that's the whole documentary story, which is not over. But yeah, the potential of no matter what's going on in the world, and there are crazy things, I mean, as crazy as it gets right now, that are happening in the world. We are the world, not just the
Mm.
media, not just the
Yeah.
system, not just the authorities. We still are. We can all get out of our house, get in our body,
Yeah.
and commune into our sensations with each other, with something bigger than ourselves. We can make that world. And I think that's hopeful.
I think it's beyond hopeful. I think
Yeah.
you are being it. And I feel like this is the key that we realize, like the power of one individual to make change is profound.
Mm-hmm.
Every religion on earth has been founded by one individual finding their
Mm-hmm.
dance, right? Whether
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
because you can find dancing in stillness. And you know what's interesting, Joe, as
Yeah.
I'm listening to you, a part of me has been kind of moving. You have this, it's a resonance in you.
Mm-hmm.
I want to share with you a book, a guidebook that I wrote, because in having a natural home birth out of the system with our daughter when I caught her, it was just like the most palpable miracle that I ever witnessed. And
Of
I've seen
course.
some really out of the box things in my life that are very hard to articulate and put to words, but it caused me to start writing a memoir, which maybe reflect on I call it a community or cultural operating system where we are kind of reflective of the miraculous nature that we all are. We're all born
Yeah.
from a seed and an egg. Like our bodies are
Mm-hmm.
incredible miracles. And so in applying this, I call it the moment home miracle, because I wasn't sure what it was. I applied it. I realized I could apply it, and the pillars are literally light, heart, and vision of this operating system. And I applied it to financial life because I think that's a big thing that's been coming up for a lot of people in the world. I grew up, I know my soul intended to overcome the challenges of financial. And I always thought it was so funny that the word abundance, if you break it down, it's abundance,
Oh my God,
right?
I never thought
You never
about
thought of
that.
that? I wrote a book. I
No,
wrote a guidebook. I called it Abundancing Life. So I'm going to
I
share that with
love
you.
it.
And
Yes.
I think something I've been contemplating. I've been reading a Matthew McConaughey's book, Green Lights. I listened to a little thing with him. I knew it's been out for a while. I just never picked it up. And it's interesting. Like I feel like I love his humility, and he has that kind of like childlike nature in a lot of ways that he just kind of showed up to things. But one of the things he said is to be less impressed and more involved. And I mean,
Mhm.
you have a miraculous story and you're living it now, and you're as
Mhm.
a filmmaker. I want to know how Lightheart Vision can be more involved in helping this work. I think this is actually the core work that we can work together and synergize in our sole purposes to
Yeah.
actually have the greatest impact. We've realized
Yeah.
recently, like we working with conscious parents, working with soulful creators is important, but at the end of the not at the end, at the core of it all, at the heart of it all
Mhm.
is the children. There are
Yeah.
because if we can prevent children from going through all this conditioning, if we can,
Absolutely.
that's the I think the biggest
That
point
solves
of
every
yeah,
issue. To me,
yeah,
allowing the children to not be conditioned, and of course they'll be conditioned by the culture, social media, the government, etc. But if we can give them back those 7 hours that
hmm
they would spend coerced and oppressed,
yeah,
we solve every problem we
yeah,
have. We solve wars. We solve relationship conflict. We solve everything.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think really that is what heaven is. And
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of psychonauts would recognize this too, because a lot of those plant medicine helpers do return to
Yeah,
us to a childlike state, and they
yeah.
remind us of the frequency of what that felt like. And I feel like you you really demonstrated something that's most important with any of those medicines, because I know a lot of people are running to those places and maybe not the best environments or the best facilitators to hold those because
Yeah,
it's
so
become very
much now.
commercial, right?
Hmm.
But at the heart of it, when you receive that medicine, I think the most important part of the journey after is the integration, because it's
It's
not
the
about,
most important. Yeah.
right? So that integration piece and you actually embodying and feeling ecstasy in a radiation machine of all places when most people are probably feeling their worst, and you're filling
Yeah.
that machine. Because I think that the thing too is we know now on a very scientific level, and the masters have been telling us for a while, like we affect our environment when we're in a state of
Completely.
coherence and a state of
Yeah.
love. Not only do we affect other people, we affect
Mhm.
the molecules in the
Everything.
mortar, and that
Hmm.
machine. I'm sure you gave some vibrations there that helped a lot of people, you know.
It was I mean, it was incredible. I adored this machine. I was just in bliss under it. I was, so present to the fact that, of course, it has things that it does that are not great for the body, but that the core of it, some humans spent so much time and put so much resource into developing the most complex. It's a huge. I don't know if you've ever seen one.
No.
It's so big. It's so impressive. And it was made from love,
Mm.
even if
Mhm.
it's not perfect yet. I'm sure there'll be another version one day that will be
Mhm.
less damaging to the
Mhm.
tissue. It's, yeah, it really taught me that. And you're right. I think integration is where the work is really at. Of course, the peak experience is fun, and it gives you like a glimpse that you can open the
Mm.
window and look at what is possible, which I guess is important because we've normalized so much dysfunction,
Yeah.
than to just be able to open the window and go, oh, that's what life is, or
Yeah.
that much love is what's possible between us. I had no clue. Then you get to, build that bridge and make your life about that. I think, and of course, because we're in a culture of extraction and consumption and production, it's been completely commercialized, and now
Mm.
it's just not held well and all of that. But there's still some good places, and I also think that you don't need psychedelics. For example,
Mhm.
the it seems like I'm answering your questions very late because you also asked
It's
me
all
this
good.
about a half hour ago. But you said what's possible when humans, when adults decondition. So most of the work that I do is online, and I had put all the work online because my child has special needs, so I couldn't really travel. I used to do a lot of workshops before, and she arrived. I was like, okay, let's just do it all online. But now that she's 10 and we're back in Europe, I've started giving in person workshops again.
Mm.
And I kid you not, you put 15 people in a room, or now I do it actually outside because I want the nature to be so present and so part of the experience. You take 15 people, you make them feel what they feel,
Mm.
which in the beginning is sticky and stinky. 5 hours after, I'll send you some videos if you want. Everyone is like high on psychedelics.
Mm.
Everyone is hugging. I'm not asking them to hug. I'm
Mm.
not asking
Mm.
them to love. Once you feel what needs to be felt because
Mm.
it's there and it's begging to be felt, it alchemizes back into love. People
Yeah.
are on floors, hugs with 15 people, humming,
Yeah.
crying, loving. It's incredible. That's
Mhm.
what's possible when we decondition, is that our instinct, our miraculous nature, which is perfect. We're born absolutely perfect. There's nothing to fix, there's nothing to change. Restores itself, resets itself, and all that's left for us to do
Mm.
is to feel the incredible miracle in our bodies with each other. And then all we want is to share it with the rest of the world and
Mm.
to create, commune, chant. Like
Yeah.
that's all that's left, is
Yeah.
really enjoy this miracle.
Yeah. And I think from my limited perspective and some of my own direct experiences, I feel like that's all that's left because that's all there really is. I think love
That's all it
is
really is.
all
Yeah,
there really is. And
yeah.
it's the resistance, the barrier to it that I feel like it's interesting, this acronym came to me many years ago for fear. It's feel everything and remember. And what you just talked
Mm,
about is exactly that. It's the
hmm.
feeling, and that seems like this, it's the appearance of the scariest part to feel the rage, to feel the sadness, to feel the loneliness, and but the other side of that always is the truth. Once you felt it, then you're not resisting the present that is there, and then you
Yeah,
can actually experience the reality that's there, and it's
yeah,
like we are loved. We wouldn't be here.
yeah.
I mean, none of us, we know this very scientifically, right? None of us would be here without the experience of love when we're very young babies. And then
Hmm.
it's interesting even watching our two, she's 2.5 actually, our daughter, and her name means light. That's why we're doing what we're
Mm,
doing, right? And um, watching some of the other family relatives that are with her, they have started treating her differently now that she's like getting a little more articulate, and and it's almost like there's this that same kind of coercion that you're talking about, that same
yeah,
conditioning that they went through, now they're putting on her
hmm,
because they think they know better. When
yeah,
Julie and I have these conversations, we believe that the children, especially the ones coming in right now in this huge place of transformation on the earth, are a lot of them are very advanced souls. I feel like Luciana's
absolutely.
will is stronger than both of ours. She knows what she wants.
Mm, beautiful.
I would never put her into education because they would try to either break her or she would be the
Yeah,
bad kid. And that's
yeah,
not who she
absolutely.
is. She's super kind. She's super, but if we try to force her to do things, she doesn't like it. But if I talk to her for a while and
Mm.
articulate, why this is important, she always comes and makes her own decision to do it
Yeah,
in her own way.
yeah,
you
yeah,
know
yeah,
and I'm
yeah.
sure I still have a ton of to learn, but I've never heard this term humanistic education, and I
Oh,
really appreciate it. So it's going to be, I think, an
yeah,
essential part of
yeah,
what we were doing.
yeah. It's so in LA, there's a couple schools, but the one that we were in started in 1958. So
Wow.
it's real deal. The very first one is called Somerville. You can look that up in
Oh
the
yeah.
UK.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I saw a documentary
yeah.
in
So,
Somerville when we were on Salt
okay,
Spring
there you
Island.
go.
Yeah. That
And
that
then the
students
one
make up
with
their own rules, and
That's it.
yeah.
So that's called more democratic
Okay.
schooling. So
Okay.
it's less emotional than humanistic.
Okay.
Humanistic really means what it says. It's like we're going to honor your humanity. We're not gonna
Mm,
oppress. You're not gonna have to repress. We're not gonna teach you anything. You just do you, and we trust that that will work. And it's incredible to watch as a parent.
yeah.
I trusted it from the get-go because of the work I do,
Yeah.
but then to see it and to see now my grown man child who's 18, I mean, him and his peers that did the same education. It's not because I'm, biased because he's my son. They are just the most wise,
Mm,
eloquent, non-shamed. It's like they've never known
yeah.
shame.
Yeah. Wow. What a
They've never
gift.
had, they, my son was just fired from a place where he worked because he stood up for someone.
Good for
It's
him.
like those kids are just like, they're just like full, they're all integrity, they're
Yeah.
themselves. There's no people pleasing, there's none of
Mm,
the stuff that we learned in our conditioning is present in their nervous system, so they're just behaving practically like aliens to us. They're just
yeah.
whole, complete, straight. Their will is intact. They trust themselves. Like when they don't want something, they don't want it.
Yeah.
When they say this, they go full on. You can't stop them. It's beautiful. A non
Wow.
conditioned human is absolutely beautiful. It's very impressive.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to say, because you shared something about, your acronym about fear and how initially we have to feel those difficult sensations. I also want to remind anyone who's listening to this, the fact that these emotions are difficult to feel is because we've been conditioned not to feel them. Because
Mm,
a child has no problem feeling anger, sadness,
yeah.
and terror. It just
Yeah.
moves through their body. And I think the science says 12 seconds, but I can't remember.
Okay.
Once it's fully felt, not the judgment on top of the
Yeah.
feeling or the resentment or the resistance to the feeling, but the actual sensations in your body,
Hmm.
it moves in, it moves out. It's just
Yeah.
like pee pee. And
Yeah.
so it's we as adults who have been so conditioned not to feel punished because we were feeling, of course, we're going to have a hard time in the beginning to feel
Mhm.
because all of our nervous system remembers the danger that it
Yeah.
was to feel when we were little.
Yeah.
But when you're used to it, it becomes pleasurable no matter which
Mhm.
emotion you're in. So,
And
yeah,
I feel like it's a capacity thing, right, too, because if you've numbed yourself in some ways, whether it's like chemically
yeah,
through food or
hmm,
recreational drugs or alcohol or whatever,
yeah,
or shopping or sex or whatever, you've numbed
yeah, yeah,
yourself. You've also limited, like people want joy, they want all the things, but if you're limiting your experience of the fear and the sadness and the anger, you're also limiting. It's like we become more and more, like you said, the
you
body,
close. Yeah,
you close and then we're
it's
not dancing, we're
it's
not
close.
moving, and it's
No,
like, you know,
if you
and
close to one emotion, you close to all of them. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
the thing. People think they can be like, no, I've learned not to feel all of those negative ones. They're not negative. They're just,
yeah.
energy and motion. I'll just go for the positive ones.
Mm-hmm.
No, if you're closing your instrument to the flow that's moving through it, you're closing your whole instrument. You can no longer be human.
You just helped me make sense of something. So I've had a very out of the box life, I was saying, Joe, and unfortunately, today we have an appointment, so I have to cut this off at the hour. But I
Yeah,
would really love to invite you back to have a conversation with Julia because she is a
yeah,
dancer and she like
yeah.
even moved to Milan to study salsa dancing professionally. But her heart, I know, is really that creative expression. And
Mhm.
it's been a journey for her becoming a mother. And I feel like you would have just such a beautiful conversation, the two of you. So I'd love to invite you
Absolutely.
back. Okay. Um,
Absolutely. With big pleasure.
yeah, I know she would just be so inspired by you and your story and your work. One of what I wanted to share is that there's this exercise that's presented in what are known as the Christ letters. Christ actually appeared to me in my early 20s, but I am not I in the dogmatic sense, I'm not religious at all, and I'm not,
Yeah.
and I was looking for truth. In most of my, I come from a very secular background. He appeared to me just as a being of pure light, and I knew who it was
Mm,
just from the feeling. And I had some experiences and meditations that I had memories of knowing him in that life before, and I won't go into the detail, but one of the things he presents to us in the letters is very pragmatic letters. He like outlines his autobiography, what he actually experienced in the desert, which is very in alignment with we know scientifically is the reality, but we don't live like this is vibrating
mm-hmm,
particles, nothing solid, and all this stuff. But the foundation of love is really what is. And he was showing exactly what you said about a baby being burned perfect in perfect love and light, and how as
mm-hmm,
it grows, it starts shielding itself and taking on all these
mm-hmm,
burdens. He gives us a very practical exercise called the cleansing of consciousness, where we can write down the qualities of the ego drive that literally are a barrier to our connection with our creator. And in recognizing these, but none of them are what you just clarified for me is none of them are emotions. They're not like anger or like depression or anything of this. All of them are actually like the gross, selfish kind of identities that we can take on, like
yeah.
animosity and hatred or
Mm-hmm,
double dealings or thieving and all these things that we can experience as conscious beings, but literally create the barriers to us experiencing a true like you were saying about the children who have like your son who's gone through humanistic being in our integrity. Like why would I ever treat
yeah.
someone disrespectfully? That's, we're connected, like so you help clarify that. And one of the beautiful
Mm-hmm,
things of that exercise is you sit down with you write after you write it down, you ask divine consciousness to remove it from you, and then you write in gold letters the qualities you would love to embody, whether it's unconditional
mm-hmm,
love or wisdom
mm-hmm,
or what he says, whatever you think those qualities ought to be. So I want to thank you because I always wondered, like, why is he not talking about some of the negative feelings that we encounter?
mm.
It's because they're not negative. It's because they're just part
No,
of our experience.
yeah,
And like you said, they're GPS. If you're feeling really angry about something, well, there's probably an important reason. And
yeah.
so by avoiding it and going and watching Netflix for 10 hours, that you haven't solved the problem. In fact, you maybe have it's maybe gotten worse over that
Absolutely.
10 hours,
And
right?
that's like a tiny example, right? But I would say that most of the biggest disasters that have happened between humans is because we've been trained as nations to follow and not follow our anger, but follow the authority. And so entire populations have been killed because, we're all like, okay, this is what we have to do. We have to kill each other. Okay, let's do it.
Mhm.
If we were in our feelings, we
Mhm.
would not,
Yeah.
allow ourselves to hurt each other.
Yeah.
But we're not
Yeah.
anymore. I mean, unless you do the work of deconditioning yourself. Yeah.
What I love about your expression, Joe, is I want to say it in the deepest sense of the word, the simplicity of it, because I feel like there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of wisdom and true power in
Mm.
simplicity. We tend to overcomplicate, and I think that's part of the conditioning process is like
Yeah.
we make things just,
It
these
becomes cerebral. Yeah.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And just feeling what we're feeling, I think is such a powerful message. And Julia's planned some in-person events in this month where we're going to be gathering more families. And I know this is part of the connection that she loves to exhibit. So we'll let you know how that goes. And we
Yeah.
do plan on being a world schooling family. So would love to come. You're in Lisbon, Portugal.
Yeah.
When we do arrive in that area, I'd love to connect with you and maybe we can
Absolutely.
co-facilitate some of these experiences
Yes.
for people.
Yes, yes. I feel that we really resonate and we have a very similar worldview. So I'd love to stay in touch with you and meet your
Wonderful.
wife. And yeah, yeah.
That's wonderful, Joe. I would love to know what is your having had all these experiences and the dancing, I just have that in my mind, you dancing everywhere in your day and making this beautiful expression as a filmmaker. What is your higher vision for our world?
The first thing that comes to mind is love and honoring of that love that we are, just
Mm,
honoring and celebrating life.
mm,
Really, really honoring life, whether it's in a plant, in a
mm.
mushroom, in a child, in a dog, in ourselves. Like,
Yeah,
really, just it's just like if we take a moment, it's just so miraculous. Um, if we could just honor it,
yeah,
we'd have everything we've ever wanted. Yeah,
yeah. I love that. So important that sacredness that the miraculous that truly is. I mean, people complain about mosquitoes, but if you really take a
yeah,
time to look at mosquito, I think mosquitoes apparently
yeah.
were the first pollinators, as an example, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like they're. I mean, I had this experience where I fasted on the land a few times, like traditionally, like build a lodge and all this stuff, and I had this. I don't know why mosquitoes came in my mind, but it reminded there's to me I had this experience where they were singers and I'll share a little bit about it because they reminded me of the dance. So it's funny how
Mm.
the mind can go and compartmentalize things and immediately judge like, oh, mosquitoes bad and
Yeah,
like
yeah,
and
yeah.
have this association. And so I tell my daughter, I said, don't ever kill a mosquito. If they land, I always just brush them off,
Mm-hmm.
like blow them
Mm-hmm.
off,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
thank you, and you can talk with them. Um, and anyways, would you like to hear a little bit about the experience I had
Yeah, yeah,
fasting on the
yeah,
land?
absolutely. The
This
dancing
was
mosquitoes. I want
yeah,
to
the
know.
dancing mosquito. So it was I was a 4 day 4 night fast where the way it starts is you go into a sweat lodge, but before that you build your your lodge, so to speak, with some
Uh-huh.
willow trees, and you do tobacco,
Yes,
and then you
yes,
tie
yes, yes. I've
tobacco.
done that.
Yeah, you've done that as
Yeah,
well. Oh,
yeah, yeah,
amazing.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so you know the process. So I think it was like there was many animal kind of messengers came to me during this one particular fast, but I've never seen so many caterpillars and I've never seen so many mosquitoes. And I had pre-done all my tobacco ties the night before, but I used a string that was not I never used before. I think it had some nylon and it all became like a big knot. So I had to cut every single one and do it again. And
Mm,
thankfully I had a hood, but I had this really sharp knife in the middle of the woods, no one present, and I had to. Um, the mosquitoes were all over me, so I had to blow them out, and I'm doing all this tobacco, and then I would go into my lodge, but because it was a tarp, I wasn't in a
mhm,
tent. The mosquitoes
mhm.
were coming in, so I just covered myself and like just kept a
Uh-huh.
little bit of a breathing space for the mosquitoes. And I was there for 4 days, right? All these mosquitoes trying to
Oh
eat
my
me
God.
alive and stuff. It was wild. And
Yeah.
at one point they were, you know how music goes, and then they
Yes.
stop, and you're like, where are they? Where are they?
Yeah.
I was so like just present with that
Yeah.
sound and with the moment that they
Mm.
started sounding like the big drum powwow singers to me. I could hear this music and I'm like,
Wow.
oh my goodness, what what is this, right? And I'm really trying
Wow.
hard to not, kill anything or to not,
Yeah.
and it reminded me of that rejoicing that is happening
Mm.
when you talk about that dance. It's like in the songbirds in the morning, and there's this beautiful
Hmm.
recording called the God's Chorus of Crickets, where they slow it right down to the lifespan of a human. And when we really become present in all of the
Mm.
music that's happening around us all the time, it's like there is this rejoicing that humankind has somehow distanced itself from. I think exactly what you're saying is the simple as we're not
Yeah.
feeling, and by just returning to that state
Yeah.
we're re-entering that rejoicefulness where we're all dancing in the hallways
Yeah.
and grocery stores
Yeah.
and joining you, Joe. So thank you for being
Absolutely.
a leader in that.
And exactly that. And also what it restores, when we can all feel again, that means that when you have something moving through you, because none of us are any more afraid or ashamed of our feelings, and we know that there's wisdom. When you have something moving through, we run to you and we're like, oh, Nathaniel has some rage moving. Go, go. And we're listening. We're listening. We want to see it. Give us more. Give us more. And then when the wave finishes, we're just like, what did you hear? And that's
Wow.
what we do in the workshops that I do. But there's always some wisdom that's coming through.
Mm,
If you
mm,
can really just honor it and embrace it and receive it
mm,
and go towards it, it's beautiful. And if we can start to live like that again,
mm.
and well, of course, with a child, it's wonderful to do it because you're really encouraging her when she cries, instead of saying, oh, you're going to be okay, to be like, yeah, you're crying, okay, yeah, be loud or go for it, I want to see all your tears. It's like that shift for them, suddenly they're not afraid of feeling in any way. And even if society might pressure a little bit, we've always done that in our family, of course, because of the education we were in. And it's just like the more of us do it, the more of us can
Mm.
enjoy it and see the ecstasy
Yeah.
really into feeling. And I promise anyone who will try that the more you do this, the more you realize that those ecstatic states with no drugs are really just when you can so honor every single emotion, that they all come at the same time. That
Mm.
rage is there, sadness is there,
Wow.
exhilaration, love, pleasure. And when they're all together and you really let them move through you, you are in ecstasy.
Mm.
And there is no pain. There is
Wow.
no, I want this to stop. It's just temples of beauty moving through you. It's absolutely worth it.
Temples of beauty moving through you. Wow. Sounds like
Mm.
bliss. I really love your expression, Joe. Really
Oh,
feel
thank
honored
you.
to be meeting you.
Glad.
What
Yeah,
a sacred
same.
conversation. I really
Mhm.
this has been one of my favorite conversations. I just
Oh,
so at the core, yeah, absolutely. We're about at 140, just under 150 love pods now, and yeah, just a phenomenal presence. You bring the dance, and I love it. I look forward to Julia meeting
yeah.
you.
I can only do it with someone. So thanks to you, Nathaniel. Really, it's been a delight. Yeah, we totally resonate. We're on the same page.
Yeah, I would love. How can people get a hold of you? Oh, look, we have some visitors. Would
Hi.
you like to meet the family here?
Yes, I want to meet all the geniuses.
Okay, here is our wisest genius.
Oh,
Hello, what is your name?
hello. Hi.
We just had a beautiful ch conversation about children.
Oh,
Julia,
she's
do you want to say hi?
beautiful.
Come on, come on.
Hello. Hi, Joe.
Hi, nice to
So
meet you.
you're good. I
Likewise.
invited Joe to come back to have a conversation with you because I think
Yes.
Well,
her story about dancing and
I
humanistic
just a
education.
little bit actually on the way home, and you have a documentary called "Why Isn't Everybody Dancing?"
Yes, absolutely.
Love that. Oh,
Yeah.
I love that. And it resonates so much. Why aren't we all dancing?
Good question.
Yeah.
It's a great question. And I think we need more and more of the answers in the form of us
Yeah.
dancing. So how
Yes.
can people get a hold of you, Joe? What is the best way of connecting with you?
Yeah. So I have a website, of course. It's called To Be or Not to Act.
Uh,
And usually the you know the events change, but you can the work of resetting is a 33-day journey work that you can do online, and then we also announce the in-person workshops that I do, and I travel around. But if you go on the tobeornottoact.com, you'll find a lot of reading and resources to start to get a taste of deconditioning yourself and jumping back into your humanity.
That's wonderful. I'd love to
Yeah.
you're invited to our school community. I think school would be really blessed by your kind of work and your delivery.
With
So if you're
pleasure.
interested in knowing more about school, I'd love to share
Yeah, yeah,
about that with you. Um,
yeah, yeah,
I do have an question I love to ask our inspiring guests.
yeah.
Uh, if you could talk to everyone, you had a magic megaphone and you could share
Ah.
an important message with the world, what
Hmm.
would you share?
Feel it all and dance it all.
Feel it all and dance it all. So wonderful having you on, Joe. I feel like I'm gonna
No.
dance. What's funny is
Yeah.
one of the last things you were saying, the song came in my mind is the more we get together, the
Hmm.
more we get together, the happier we'll be. When you're bringing all
Yes.
those emotions together, I feel like
Yes.
that's truly the inner alchemy, the journey of mastery, that journey between the head and the heart that we all
Absolutely.
have as human beings in the sacred dance
Yeah.
that we are on together.
Yeah.
So thank you so
Yeah.
much for blessing
Yeah.
our
Thank
love pod
you.
today.
Absolutely. Such a pleasure. And yeah, let's stay in touch. Let's do more. Let's open more together.
Sounds wonderful. Sounds wonderful. Okay.
Beautiful.
Blessings to you and all those you
Thank
touched,
you.
Joe, your beautiful, beautiful family. I'm just going to
Yes,
share
thank you.
a little video from our daughter. Say thank you for watching, everyone. And
Mhm.
this was her when she was about a year and a half. So have a wonderful rest of your day. And thanks to all our listeners. Blessings to all of you and your families as well. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks for watching. You say ciao ciao.
Bye.
I love you so much.